Hi, I'm Drew, and I'm an amateur model builder. I'm building a layout in my basement called the White River Line, inspired by the Frisco Railroad in the Ozarks. In this episode, I'm going to continue to work on the lumberyard and millwork kitbash project. Ultimately, my goal is to get some of the basic assembly done, but I've got quite a bit of painting to do before I can get there. So, let's jump on into it. In the first video for this project, I made some modifications to 3 Atlas lumber yards to make one long shed and one short shed to hold the lumber. I also built the walls and floors for the millwork shop that will sit on top of these sheds. And I started on the office building as well. In the second video, I painted the exteriors of the building and did a little weathering. Now I need to paint the beams, posts, and platforms for the lumber sheds, as well as the floors for the office and the millwork shop. To start, I do some underpainting with Vallejo's Golden Brown, wood, light brown, sand, and light gray. I paint the individual boards with these colors, an ad hoc mixture of these colors, as randomly as I can manage. This is pretty much the same technique I use for my coaling tower, but with some slight modifications. The first change is that I added some bits of gray to the edges of the boards that will be well seen, and some dry brushing of the gray in less conspicuous areas. After underpainting, I applied 502 of Teeling oil paint, in this case, burnt umber. I squeezed out a bit on some cardboard and let it sit for about an hour, which draws out some of the oil in the paint. I'm not exactly sure why you do this, but it's what I've seen other people do when using this paint. If you know why, let me know in the comments below. I'm using a lighter color of paint on this project than I did on the coaling tower, where I used brown wash. I also thinned out the paint a bit more than I did on the coaling tower. Whereas with the coaling tower I wanted the underpainting to influence the color of the oil paint, in this case I want the oil paint to influence the color of the underpainting. This underpainting by itself looks like something out of a comic book. The oil wash will bring together the different tones and make them more subtle. I didn't do the underpainting on everything. The parts that sit in the background, like the second row of posts, don't need that much detail, so I just applied the wash to them. The interior of the sheds don't even need the wash. They'll hardly be seen at all once I fill up the racks with lumber. I let the wash dry for an hour or more and then went back with a brush, just barely damp, with odorless thinner. And I mean just barely damp. I blended and softened the wash. After letting the oil paint dry for 24 hours, I'm ready for some base assembly. Well, almost ready. I have to file and scrape off the paint to prepare the parts to accept the glue. This process is a chore for me, and I'm always looking for ways to make it go faster. I added a bit of liquid masking to some of the parts before priming them as a bit of an experiment. I applied the masking here on the smaller base, and it still takes a little bit of work to scrape off the paint. However, it is much easier than here on the larger base, where I did not apply the masking. The gummy bits from the masking can be a bit to deal with, though. Masking or not, using the tip of this blade is a bit too tedious. That's better. On the flat surfaces, I can rub the masking off with my thumb, although sometimes it does require a bit of cleanup with a file. I think this masking can be really helpful in slots where otherwise you'd have to do a lot of scraping. On tabs or butt joints, places you can easily sand or file, it's really just an extra step. Well, let's assemble this small shed. Oh, wait. I need to paint these tools molded in the side of the shed. Okay, now let's assemble this shed. I'm going to mostly be using styrene cement. Cement, in my opinion, is always the better choice over CA glue when working with styrene, since it welds the plastic together. However, you have to be careful after painting since it will strip the paint. I'm using just regular viscosity cement. It can be easier to control in this application than the thin stuff. Just don't use the brush in the cap and apply it somewhat sparingly. I did need to do some touch-up with the thin cement. I just applied it in places that I knew wouldn't be visible. I am going to use CA glue for these smaller pieces. They are very visible, and I'm not precise enough with the cement to be sure I won't ruin my paint job. I'm going to wait on adding these steps until later. It'll just get broken off if I add it now. Moving on to the larger shed, I'd broken one of my kitbash pieces during painting, so I need to fix that first. I overlooked adding a notch here on the platform to accommodate the left-hand post, so I added that notch now. Getting the racks and posts assembled is a bit fiddly. Now I busted the back set of posts doing some dry fitting off camera, but I'm going to put them in the assembly and then glue them back together there. I'm eager to move on to assembling the millwork shop that will straddle the two sheds. But I think I should add the workbench on the side of the smaller shed first. It'll be easier to add now than after I get the piece fully assembled. I need to do a little bit of painting first. I painted the roof of the workshop. Then, I painted the details on the shelf. Before moving on, I applied a matte clear coat to both of the sheds to protect my paint job. sitting down to get started on the millwork, I began to realize I needed to make some modifications to make it work. I want to give this work the attention it needs. I'm afraid I don't have time to do that and get this video out to you all. So, for now, I'm just going to think through what I need to do to make this mill workshop work, and I'll show you what I come up with. You can find the usual stuff below. My Facebook and Instagram links are in the description, along with my Amazon wish list, a link to my merch, and a list of tools, supplies, and resources I use. You know where the like and subscribe buttons are, and clicking on those are the easiest ways to support my channel. And I love your comments, so keep them coming. I've finally gathered up all the supplies I need to wire up my track, so I'm pretty excited to get that going in my next video. Thanks for watching, and please join me again next time as I continue modeling the White River Line.